Okay, welcome back to another episode of What If History Restarted. It's episode 63, yeah. And last time we saw a lot of stuff in, Eurasia, such as the war from Golden Horde against these countries down here, which they kind of won. Did collapse one up here. We also saw some alliance stuff over in Europe. And yeah, we're picking up off of there, where over in the Octagon side of things, they are pretty scared of the crosses because, well, they are mortal enemies. They know the crosses are, officially aggressive, going after some innocent countries down here from the failing Circle Economic Alliance. And, the Octagon Alliance doesn't really like that. And they kind of want to retaliate and, even out things. And so, there really isn't even that many Octagon countries. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7th one. So it's 7 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 7 to 9. It's not too over not balanced. But these guys are still, a little bit down members. They do have some arguably more powerful members on average. I doubt this country is going to be doing much in a war, but then again, I doubt this one is. So it's kind of, But yeah, the Octagon Alliance does not feel safe because they are. What was that noise? But the Octagon Alliance is slightly weaker off than the Cross Alliance, and so we're going to see them meet over in somewhere, maybe up here, because why not? And they decide that they need to go after a country or countries of their own to try and get back at the crosses. And there's some consideration, but they feel like they don't want to just. Also, they have 8 because I forgot about Alaska. But they don't want to just go after a weak country and not get that much resources. Many resources. That's basic grammar. So they choose a different target, which is China over here. And that is because probably the 2 strongest members of the alliance, Baikal is easily number 1, and I guess this would be East China. They, Southeast China, I call them Shanghai. But yeah, they could both benefit greatly from this, and Baikal and Turquoise China have always hated each other throughout history, so why not get back at them? Anyways, with that, we are going to see this war take place, and basically, these guys are just going to say it's retribution for past war crimes that the Chinese did in World War I, which, when that happened, the Chinese were the losers, and Baikal was the winner, so they could still pull that card, and it's not as, obviously it's not a perfect excuse, but it's good enough for them to think it's okay. And so this war will begin right now, because now I got the colors ready. So, and I already messed up. But yeah, this China, this one of the 3, arguably 4 Chinas will now push in, as well as Baikal from the north. And actually, these guys, I'm already backtracking on things, but these guys would probably want to go, in over here, while Baikal goes on pretty much just directly across from them. This way, they are going to be able to do a little pincer movement here and cut off the peninsula where its capital is. This is going pretty well, but unfortunately, China has always kept a ton of reserve defense troops because, well, first of all, they have a ton of population. Second of all, because, Baikal is their mortal enemy, and so they've always been very scared of another war breaking out. And honestly, those worries were good to have. So when the troops of Baikal reach this major or even vital city over here, there's a big battle for it. But in the end, China actually comes out on top. And from there, with that boost in morale, their military makes some great progress over here, encircling their own city, forcing the Baikal troops over into it to kind of make it go under siege. Meanwhile, they push back a little bit further up here, although Baikal does kind of start spreading out to try and thin out China's troops. Now over here, the Southeast China, they are definitely not as strong as Baikal, but they still are decently strong, and China, the turquoise China, is focusing most of its energy on, Baikal's front line. So with that, they really don't have a lot of troops down here, and these guys are pushing up pretty well. However, their military is relatively unexperienced, and with there being a ton of population in this area, there's only 2 cities, but like this entire general area, like over here, has a ton of people in it. Because of that, it's very hard to push through here because there's a lot of civil resistance. I don't know if that's the correct term or not, but maybe. So things are going decent for this China. I keep saying this China because, there's 3, kind of 4. But, yeah. Things are going decent for China, but they know that they probably aren't going to win this war. So they're going to go to their old buddy Korea. Because Korea has, great friendship with China, I guess you could say. And also because they are afraid that they would be next on the chopping block. Because, there's no sign that once China will be defeated, then Baikal will stop there. Because Baikal also hates them, just not as much as China. But anyway, Korea will join in on the war effort, and they do still have a ton of military and navy. So with that, they're going to immediately push up over here and take this major city. From there, they're going to slink all the way around to the coast because they coordinated this mission with these guys, and that was successful as they now retake all of the coast. Baikal was definitely not expecting this because it seems a little bit stupid, and that's maybe because it is, but it is what they need, I guess. So yeah, Korea will start pushing up into them. However, what would you call this? Hokkaido, I guess? Sakhalin? Well, there's no major cities up there, so probably not. Manchuria, maybe? I don't know. But whatever you would call this thing, they are also going to get, this war because, well, they're already part of the Octagon Economic Alliance, and even though it's technically not a military alliance, it might as well be. And so these guys are going to immediately start pushing in over here. The only thing is, they are pretty weak, and they're not even able to get close to this vital city. From there, Korea's insane navy is going to go ahead and swoop around, land all the way up here, behind enemy lines, and take this major city. From there, they make a great push over here, and Baikal has to divert some of their troops over here, which is not good for the China front line, which does fall back by a little bit. However, China is still has to oopsies, but these guys are going to still have to focus all of their military up on, well, not all of their military, but a lot of their military on holding back the Baikal front line, just because Baikal is very powerful. So these guys are able to kind of divert their mission and go to over here to try and secure some of these more slightly rural lands. Anyway, with Baikal's diversion, I guess you would say diversion, of troops, they are now making pretty good progress over here in Korea, and begin to push into the north. Over here, these guys really just are not good militarily, as they have a ton of logistical failures and start getting beaten back by the very technologically advanced Korea. Korea does have some pretty good technology, as well as their navy, of course. And speaking of their navy, they just landed over here in Hokkaido's capital and took it. So, this war has been going on for a while now, and there's pretty much one question in mind, which is the Diamond Alliance. These guys are in a bit of an awkward position. They could join up with the Octagon Alliance, because, they do already have one member over there, and some of them did fight alongside Baikal in World War I, especially these guys. They're definitely close allies with Baikal, but unfortunately for the rest of them, they suck. But yeah, they could do that and join up with Baikal and the Octagons. However, they could put aside their differences with China and Korea, who have been relatively peaceful for a while, and actually, take back or well, not take back, but expand pretty greatly out here, because they do definitely want that. Plus, like, this guy over here in Japan would definitely like a lot of, well, Japan. And what else? I guess it's actually kind of it. But yeah, so they're kind of on the fence of what to do here. Both sides of, China and Korea / the Octagon Alliance are definitely pleading with them to join their side, whichever one that may be. And these guys are still going to be thinking about it, but they are leaning towards neutrality just to, not ruin their relations with either team. But that could change. Anyway, though, Baikal is going to almost reclaim this major city, but they will still be unable to. China will finally get rid of this siege, and they'll take back this major city, pushing these guys back to the border over here on the coast. Hokkaido's final few major cities will all fall, and from there the entire country kind of starts to evacuate itself and run over to, this big chunk starts running over to Baikal, and the island chunks start running over to Green Japan, because, they're kind of a lost cause. They're mostly just occupied by Baikal by this point, so to show that we can do this, because, these guys are, not too good at this whole war thing. And, But anyway, Baikal will continue to push in over here in China with a new sort of moralified military. They push out to this major city and manage to take it, and they now start a nice little spear end over here to this random vital city, which I'm honestly not sure how that's a vital city, because it's all the way up in, Mongolia, but just go with it. There's some cities in some weird places in real life. So there is a battle for this, which kind of goes on for a while, so we don't see a winner yet, as it still continues on. Over here, though, China and, East China and Baikal attempt to make up, or connect up, and they do for a little bit, but then the Chinese military sends a division over here, which absolutely obliterates this whole thing. From there, Korea is going to go ahead and make a landing over here in this country, and they're going to actually manage to, almost cut off, but not quite, this vital city. But with that, these guys have to recall a lot of their troops, and so things are a little bit embarrassing for Baikal and the rest of the Octagons, because, Baikal is supposed to be, the third strongest country in the world, but they're kind of, they definitely aren't losing, but they're definitely having a whole lot of trouble against just two, top 20 countries, which is not a good look for them, and it's some great propaganda over here on the Cross Alliance, who are probably telling all their citizens, oh, look how weak these guys are, they can't even get rid of China and Korea. However, it does kind of make sense, because Korea still does have an insanely powerful navy, and both these countries have a ton of population and very advanced technology. Meanwhile, Baikal has a pretty low population, pretty low as compared to its, power position, because, you would think the third strongest country in the world would have, a ton of people, but it really only has, probably about as much as, Korea. So, yeah, they just have a whole lot of, tanks and guns and stuff, which is why they're, the third strongest country, plus, economy and influence and all that. So, yeah. But anyway, as this war continues to rage on for quite a while, we see that Green Japan will actually not get involved. Baikal is pretty mad at them, but they're well, it's not a military alliance, so we are not forced to, and also Korea just instantly wiped out our northern neighbors, so we're a little bit afraid of them. And that's good enough for Baikal. As for the Diamond Alliance, they are still, now they've officially chosen to remain neutral in this war, which is pretty annoying to both sides, because this war has a very high casualty count. But unfortunately, there's just, they don't really want to join either side, because they just don't want to burn the bridges with either side. over here for this, in the battle for this vital city, China wins. And by this point, Baikal is just going to kind of give up and just go for the rural area instead, which they actually do very successfully. They do still hold on to this one major city down here, but that is actually currently the only city that is owned by enemies over in China, so they've actually been doing a pretty good job. They continue to push East China out. East China has a very good economy and a lot of people, but not the greatest military. So, yeah. They do, however, manage to push out Korea's little invasion over here. And as for Baikal and Korea, Baikal manages to reclaim all of this. They also kind of take control of this country over here. However, Korea manages to push them out in the north here. And from here, the war is going to stalemate, as China's and Korea just don't really have the power to really, invade either Baikal or China. It's East China. And Baikal and the rest of the Octagon Alliance just have, too much of an issue with all the people and technology over here in China and Korea. So because of that, there's, it's kind of two equal forces pushing each other, and eventually it comes to a stop. So we now get to look at the peace treaty for this surprisingly lengthy war. So this might take a little bit. Yep. Actually, it's about to be over, I think. You see, there's that and there's that. Okay. So first of all, Baikal is going to get a lot of this northern, more rural area. They pretty much get it like all around the whole entire border. That looks bad. Let's not do that. Bam. But yeah, they do not even get they don't even get any major cities from this, so that's pretty annoying. Now they're kind of regretting deciding to go after a strong country, because, well, now that didn't go too well for them. And also made some terrible looking borders. Wow. Maybe I can salvage this. That still looks not good. East China over here they will still take a lot of mostly just farmland over here, so that's good for them. As for Korea, their borders literally do not change at all, except for like a tiny little exchange of land over here. Yeah. These guys definitely got, because these guys were wiped out of the war, but then they were later reclaimed by Baikal. So with that is the actual just peace treaty to this war. China is looking absolutely horrible right now. Yikes. That looks a little interesting, actually. But, yeah. That is the price you pay when you get invaded and it comes to a stalemate at an awkward position. And how long was that war? I believe that was 18 minutes, so yeah, we got time for some more. Well, we would, but, not every episode needs to make the 20-minute mark, and I think this might just work better as, a quick little fun, I guess you could say fun, yeah, quick little fun delve on one specific war, just because that's pretty cool. So yeah, this war did make Baikal and these guys slightly stronger, but honestly not by that much. It definitely was not worth it. And all it really did in the long term was make China and Korea hate Baikal even more. And yeah, so that is going to be the end.